Hi, I'm Katie Donnelly, and I'm the Global Manager of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion at Verizon. And we're really excited to bring the team together to share how we're really engaging and making the experience better for our transgender and gender non-binary customers. I'm going to let the panel introduce themselves. Anthony, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Anthony Burns, and my pronouns are he, him, and his.
And what do you do in terms of Verizon and Prism?
Yeah, so at Verizon, I do work in finance, and for Prism specifically, I'm the treasurer or the finance chair, and I've been in this role for about 1.5 years.
Okay, great. Shannon, could you introduce yourself? You have to take yourself off of mute, Shannon.
Hi, it's Shannon Hughes. I work at Discover Card. In Dimping, I'm an ERG lead for our Pride Resource Group locally in Phoenix, and also work with our Enterprise Pride Resource Group.
Okay, thank you. Shannon Gray, could you introduce yourself and what you do at Verizon and how this is very important to you?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shannon Gray. My pronouns are she, hers, and hers. And I am a Go-to-Channel Program Project Manager for Verizon Consumer Group. And I'm very happy to be here today. And I'm passionate about this topic because I believe everyone deserves to be accepted, respected, and empowered to be their true selves. So thanks for having me.
Crystal, could you introduce yourself?
Of course. Hi, everyone. I'm Crystal Hausschultz. My pronouns are her and she, and I have been with Verizon for about 11 years. I'm a project manager as well. I'm fortunate to have an opportunity to be an ally, both at home and at work. Being an ally is so important to me. I want to do what I can to lift up the community and bring awareness to issues that impact equality and social justice. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Emma, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Emma Hilden. My pronouns are she, hers. I've been with Verizon for 23 years in the global network and technology space. I'm also the lead of Verizon Prism, which is our LGBTQ plus ERG. And being transgender, this is very near and dear to me as both a customer and as a lead of Prism.
Great. And Shannon Hughes, don't feel bad about anything. It was hysterical the way you came in and introduced yourself and owned it. So don't even worry about that. So I'm going to share a little bit about Verizon's diversity, equity, inclusion strategy. And our strategy is in a shared accountability model where DE&I doesn't sit in the office of diversity, equity, inclusion. It's a shared accountability across the organization. And we have 4 key stakeholders who our strategy is aligned to support. Our CEO has identified these 4 stakeholders. There are our employees, our customers, society, and our shareholders. And he views them all equally important. And he truly believes that if we take care of our employees and our customers, society will see the benefits of it and our shareholders will see the value around it. And one of the things that came up was we had an opportunity with a customer. We got customer feedback. It was they were a transgender customer who had some challenges around engaging with Verizon. They felt that every time they called Verizon, they had to come out every single time. So that's not the customer experience that we want. So we pulled together a team that's reflective here. And we pulled together some solutions that we'd like to share with you. And I'm going to hand it over to Emma so Emma can share her story about transitioning as well as the challenges she had when she was updating all her information.
So I know for those of you out there listening that are trans or non-binary, being able to change your name is something that's very important. And as a customer, when you change your name, you get this laundry list of different companies you have to go change your name with. And it can be very challenging as every company has a different approach. And sometimes it can be invasive in the sense of, they don't even do anything online. They don't make it that easy. They send you a letter and you have to respond to the letter with your court order. Sometimes you have to provide Social Security, driver's license. It can be very challenging. And each time you call in to do something with your bill or to talk about a service or something, if you get dead named, it has a huge impact on the person. And for those of you who may not know, dead naming is basically when, after you've gone through a name change, someone refers to your old name. And it can psychologically, it can be painful. And I think the real challenge is it never ends. Like I came out in 2018 and I'm still finding areas where I have to go change my name that I just didn't think of. So imagine everything you do, having to go and change your name. And I think changing the first name sometimes is more challenging. I know people get married and change their last name. There's already, things in place for that for most companies, but being transgender, wanting to change your gender marker and your name can be challenging.
Okay, so as I shared the customer's experience that galvanized us to pull this solution together, I'm going to hand it over to Shannon because she was really the lead that pulled all the internal stakeholders together to really get this implemented in a very quick turnaround time. Shannon?
Thank you, Katie. So unfortunately, Emma's experiences are far too common. After receiving similar feedback from other customers, similar to what Emma shared, we quickly recognized as an organization that we really had an opportunity to do better, and especially to do better by our transgender and our non-binary customers. So as the customer service go-to-channel program manager, I was tasked basically with pulling a team of stakeholders together to brainstorm and devise a plan to really improve the customer experience. Recognizing that I'm not a subject matter expert, I immediately just did what most people do. I went to Google and started really trying to learn as much as I possibly could. I found a lot of great information out there, especially like a Review Trevor project, so many different resources. But the best resources I actually found were internally. I reached out to our L&D partners to provide me with some reputable resources, but they also put me in touch with the D&I team and Katie, who not only eagerly offered to jump in and help, but also solicited the help from some of our colleagues involved in the Prism ERG. So thankfully, with making all those contacts, I met with Emma, and Emma, along with a few other Prism members, I know Jeremy, volunteered to join our project team. And they were the best resources we probably could have ever asked for. They really helped us bring everything together. So in that, we got together and we discussed all the possible system enhancements that could be implemented, such as adding preferred name fields and adding pronouns and all the different things that we could possibly do to enhance our system and empower our customers to self-identify. However, we also recognize that improving the customer experience would take far more than system enhancements. So we all aligned that we really needed to educate and empower our employees. So basically what we did was we started to put together what we call soft skills training for all of our frontline employees and our supervisors. And this training would be delivered as a connect session, which is a leader-led type team huddle that we felt was the perfect catalyst for a good, authentic discussion. It was very open, and it was just a good place to have good discussion. So the team really worked together to create the content that was not only educational, but also like a resource that would really help our customer-facing employees when interacting with our transgender and non-binary customer base. And basically the message we wanted to convey was very simple. We just wanted to ensure we're creating a welcoming and inclusive experience for all customers by recognizing every customer's uniqueness and providing them a feeling of being valued and connected. So just to give you a little bit of an idea, the Connect content included some definitions, like Emma explained, like dead name, misgendering, as well as we provided tips on like gender neutral verbiage and empathy statements that could be used, how to handle if and when mistakes are made, and how to, to apologize and move on and fix it and just normalize the process. So I have to say that this was a very, very rewarding experience working with everyone and learning so much. But I think my favorite part of the Connect session, and the part I personally felt was the most impactful, was a video that Emma actually shared of her own personal customer experiences after her transition. It literally brought me to tears, and it brought me to tears for multiple reasons. But it also really left me feeling such a sense of joy and a sense of pride, knowing that together we're going to help change the narrative for others. So, I would say that I'm very proud of this team and the team that worked on this project. And I'm also happy to say that we received nothing but amazing feedback from our frontline employees, as well as leadership, on how meaningful and how powerful our session really was. And hopefully it's the first of many more to come. So I will turn it back over to you, Katie.
So Shannon's being a little modest. The team was able to turn this around in less than a month and have it rolled out to all our customer service associates and the leaders. And this is a population of about 20,000 employees. So it was really significant. And it also gave us the opportunity to identify system enhancements internally. So why we thought every single system was aligned to PeopleSoft, the HRNIS system, we realized like that was not necessarily the case. So we were able to identify systems and the support that was needed to update, dead names, as well as preferred pronouns and all of that. So this was really a jumping off point for the organization to look at this holistically from beginning to end, from the employee life cycle as well. And then as a part of this process, we realized that this could be expanded to all lines of business, to all our customers. And Crystal and her team are working on this project around preferred names and pronouns. And she's going to share that and what's going along with that. Crystal?
Thank you. And thank you again. Hi, friends. So I'm so proud to work for Verizon. They're an incredibly diverse company who celebrates and encourages employees to connect with each other and advocate for change. So as we continue to grow, we did uncover that we needed to change how we engage with our transgender and non-binary customer base, as Shannon mentioned. So with the understanding that gender is fluid and our true desire to meet our customers where they're at, we took those quick connect sessions and the training sessions that Shannon just reviewed as our jumping off point for changing how we engage with our customer base. So that has prepared us to respond to a New York legislation that was passed, and it will be signed into law by the end of this year. And that law states that all utility service providers in New York need to provide customers an easy way to update their preferred name and pronouns with their service providers. So to align with this New York law, we've started updating all of our systems to allow customers to provide us their preferred name and pronouns easily. We're going to offer it online. We're going to offer it via the My Verizon app and over the phone with any of our customer service reps. And in future phases of this initiative, we will look to include this option for new customers at the time they're setting up a new account with us, as well as offering at retail store locations and our vendor partners who also represent the Verizon brand. So we want to make this a seamless customer experience across all of our channels. And we don't want to limit this change to just our New York customers, though. We know that this is the right thing to do for our customers, and we want to roll this out nationally to all the customers in our Verizon footprint. So the challenges that the trans and non-binary community faces isn't singular to one area of the country. It impacts people everywhere, as we know, and that improved customer experience for everyone, it worked towards making that happen. So for this initiative to be successful, we're partnering with all of our work streams. Unfortunately, it can't be a 1 month turnaround time like Shannon knocked hers out because she's incredible and amazing. But this one's a much bigger lift. So we're talking about postpaid to prepaid, cable services to collections and fraud, from FiOS home internet to 5G mobile broadband. We want all of our customers to have the ability to be addressed how they want to be addressed. So once we're given a preferred name and or pronouns, our customers have our commitment that we are going to address them by their preferred name and pronouns in all communications, written or verbal, going forward. We will not be requiring legal name change documents for these requests. We will not ask our customers to jump through hoops to avoid being dead named. It's about respect and it's about being human. So we recognize that addressing our customers in a way that does not align with who they are is painful, and that's not how we want to do business. So we're working hard to make sure that this happens, and we're looking forward to launching the preferred name and pronoun initiative across the entire Verizon footprint in early 2022. So this work is just another small step to bridge the gap of equality, and we'll continue to strive to learn and do better as we partner with our customers and our communities. So we want to continue to raise our awareness of the challenges that LGBTQ community faces and make changes along the way to improve that customer journey. So thank you for allowing me the time on this forum to share those updates with you, and feedback is a gift.
Excellent. Thank you, Crystal.
Of course.
And to piggyback a little bit on what Crystal's saying. So I referenced about Verizon looking holistically across the organization and really making sure our employees feel included, valued, that they can, I know it's cliche, but to be able to be their authentic selves at work. So this is a part of building upon caring for our 4 stakeholders and the shared accountability model. So we will be launching in our new HRIS system, LGBTQ self-ID, a 3rd gender option, employees being able to put their pronouns in their work profile. So if someone goes onto our intranet to look for an employee, they'll know immediately what their pronouns are. And it's a big lift, but we're very excited about it. And we've partnered with the ERG, the Prism ERG. And I have to say, there has not been a moment hesitancy or any questions that would lead me to believe that people aren't supportive of this, because from an IT standpoint, from a legal and a privacy standpoint. So we're really proud of that. And we really want to be viewed as an LGBTQ plus employer of choice, and making sure that our customers as well as our employees feel heard and valued. And while we know we've done a lot of great work, there's always room for improvement. So Anthony has initiated this great process and this opportunity for us to benchmark with our customers. And he's going to share a little bit about that. And it came out of last year's Out and Equal Summit. So this is a valuable opportunity for all of us to benchmark and pull best practices through. Anthony?
Yeah, so thanks, Katie. So I just want to start by saying that I do appreciate the scope of this conversation. So we've talked about Verizon's journey in this process, the value that it brings to our customers. And Emma, I want to thank you for sharing your personal experiences with us. As it was said before, I'm proud to work for a company that is making the customer experience for all of its customers a priority. It means a lot to me that Verizon is taking this matter seriously and is investing the resources necessary for us to fulfill on our commitment to our customers. And as it relates to best practices, I think that sharing the experiences and priorities with outside organizations can be valuable. So as Katie mentioned, last year through Out and Equal's Buddy program, I had the opportunity to connect with this amazing individual who happens to work for a company which is a customer of Verizon's. And through this relationship, we just started talking and sharing where both organizations were, not only from an ERG perspective, but more broadly from an overall company perspective. And so that led us to bringing in some of our other ERG leaders to have a, I'll say, more formal conversation. And initially, the scope of that was focused in around the ERG perspective, but we soon realized that we needed to broaden that and include the overall organizational approach. So we were able to bring in some GDE&I representatives to give us that point of view. And through these conversations, we've discussed the accomplishments, the challenges, and the future goals that each organization really has. And so we've seen the value in sharing best practices from comparing our non-discrimination policies to see how they overlap, to discussing the various ways that we approach supplier diversity, and also how we show up for our customers. So the real value that I see in having these conversations and being able to benchmark is to have a point of contact to brainstorm with and to make sure that we're heading in the right direction to create an inclusive environment. And I would say that this relationship is still evolving, and what we're creating is going to be great, but it's certainly still in the works. But being able to leverage and compare where we are and where we're heading as organizations has been valuable. To me, it's reassuring to know that we're not alone in some of the challenges that we face, and that we are still developing our policies and practices and training to create a fully inclusive environment. And this was something that came up actually recently out of these benchmarking conversations, where we talked about what our ideal state would be. And so we discussed what would be required at a bare minimum for us to say that we've met that goal. From policies to culture to representation, there are many different aspects that encompass and create a positive customer experience. And ERGs and GDE&I together have the power to influence organizations by moving it forward on all of those fronts. So having these conversations with an outside organization not only has shown us that we're on the right track, but it's also inspired us to keep moving forward towards this ideal state. And the exciting thing to me is that this ideal state will always evolve and change based on our experiences and our interactions. So in brainstorming, we've realized that both organizations do have a solid foundation and that there's a lot of work still to be done. But because we have this foundation, we're able to focus on expanding our policies and practices and continuing to influence our culture to create this fully inclusive environment. And if you ask me, every organization really needs to adapt to the needs of its customers in order to be successful. And any organization who doesn't make that a priority will eventually feel the consequences of that. So not only are we making this a priority for Verizon, but we're sharing and learning from these benchmarking conversations about what a truly inclusive environment looks like. And it's great to have another perspective on that, because I think it's easy to set a goal or to have a vision and work towards that heads down. But once you get there, if you don't check in with other organizations or your customers, you might look up and realize that everyone else is over there because they've created something much more meaningful and much more powerful. So it's important to check in not only with external organizations, but also customers to make sure that we really are on the right track. And through the sharing and the learning that we've done together, I do see that we are moving the world forward towards this inclusive environment that we really wish to see. And as it relates specifically to the training that we've been talking about with Verizon, I do see this as a step towards that ideal state. And my true hope is that this is something that becomes the standard and the norm across all organizations in the not too distant future. And so Katie, with that, I'll pass it back to you.
Okay, great. So with the training that we put together for our customer service associates, we are in the process of figuring out a way of tweaking it so we can embed it in our retail stores as well, and really give them the skill set to handle it face-to-face comfortably for the customer and for our employees. So we're really excited about building upon that. And then we've been leveraging PFLAG and their gender non-binary training to really give the people the understanding, our employees the understanding of what the different things mean. Like we had a lot of questions like what's the difference between gender and sex and all of that. So as part of building upon the training, we also developed a transgender non-binary toolkit that will be housed on our web internally. And it will be a resource for all employees in terms of baseline understanding of gender, non-binary, transgender people, the transition process in the office, how HR can support it. There's going to be a total section around that. And we're going to be rolling that out with the PFLAG training across all the across the whole entire HR organization, so they can support their clients when we start rolling out the pronouns, the self-ID, and all of that. And then we developed a transgender learning plan that is housed on our learning portal internally. So that's a resource that people can go to, employees can go to, and it's from a parent's perspective. We have a session later on this week around parents of LGBTQ plus children and how we facilitated that conversation. So really making sure this resource supports all the different aspects of what being transgender and gender non-binary, and equipping parents and friends and loved ones into supporting the people in their lives, as well as our customers. So we're very excited about everything and how we've moved the needle upon this. And the fact that this is no longer a push to the business, it's a pull from the business. And not just around the transgender non-binary piece of this, but from the LGBTQ plus across the board. The business is asking for this. We're not pushing it out any longer. And it's really amazing how we've been able to transform the discussion. We developed a courageous conversation toolkit last year as a result of George Floyd's murder. And we've tweaked that around courageous conversations for LGBTQ conversations. So leaders are having these conversations with their teams around LGBTQ plus inclusion as well. So we're really proud of what we've done, and we're just looking forward to building upon it in the future and just really keeping the momentum going and change society as a whole. So we're very proud of what we've done. And this team has been tremendous in doing this. I can't say enough about Prism, which is our LGBTQ plus ERG. They've been transformative in getting this messaging and these best practices out into the field and really facilitating the conversations so our employees feel heard, represented, as well as our customers do as well. And it's just super exciting to be a part of this and sharing what we've done with you. I'm going to open it up to questions. If people have questions, let me go into the chat.
So Katie, I did pull a couple of questions from the chat.
Okay.
If you want me to go ahead and get started with that.
Yes, that would be great.
So the first one that I have here, and I didn't capture anyone's names, but with the increase of identity theft and data breaches, how do you balance the company's need to prevent account takeover while also being supportive for the name changes and helpful to both trans and non-binary customers?
So,
sorry, go ahead, Katie.
Crystal, you go ahead. You do that. You answer.
Okay, so yeah, I'll take this one. We're still working through that, and that is a challenge. So what we are looking to do is have our when a chosen name is given to us, we are displaying only that name on all of our customer facing screens. So there's not an option for our agents to accidentally call our customer by the wrong name. The only exception to that is where if if there is a specific work function where the legal name is required to perform that work function. So in the example of credit reporting or in the example of fraud verification, our reps will still see the chosen name first, but they will have the option to, on that screen only, also view the legal name if for some reason something flags in a order as fraud, perhaps. So let's say I change my name to John Smith, and I also changed my address, and then I also ordered 50 iPhones. That is going to flag something with our fraud team. They'll be able to pull up, use their internal tools for however they verify business as usual, and they may ask that customer to provide us a copy of their ID. And we need the agents to be able to see both the chosen name and the legal name, because we don't know if this customer has gone through a legal name change or maybe they haven't. In either way, we need to be able to verify and address that customer. So that's one of the things that we're working with. Because we're launching in just New York first, I know New York is our most populous state, but it does still give us a smaller group to work with. So we're going to very closely monitor the fraud impacts, and we're working closely with our reporting teams to kind of monitor what is being changed, how often we're seeing fraud occurrences with this option, so we can further, refine our scope and tailor that and make sure that we're addressing those needs while not eliminating the option for our customers to give us their chosen name and pronouns. Hopefully that makes sense. So we're working through it still. It's on our radar. We know it's going to be an issue. Unfortunately, fraud is just a part of the world we live in, and we'll do our best to mitigate it.
And there was a question from Mike Vance around how did Prism get the business to pay for these things? Honestly, it wasn't even questioned. The business was completely on board, and they saw the value in this and wanted to improve the customer experience. We were really fortunate that it was that easy of a lift.
And Katie, I want to add to that. For anyone who is on that is part of an ERG, you're in a leadership role in an ERG. One of the things that's important as an ERG is to make sure that you make those connections with the business side so that you can guide and communicate, what life is like in the LGBTQ plus community, what our challenges are, and how we can help just kind of serve as, kind of a guide towards the business side of, and it could be any company, but what the business side does.
Anthony, are there any other questions?
Yes, I've found a few. So another one is, can you expound on what your third gender option will be for employees, please?
Yes, so right now in the Workday feature, it is going to have they, them, theirs. And there's going to be we're working on a field that will be able to capture others. And we're going to pull that and leverage the best practices around that, the most requested, and add that in at a later date. So we're building the fields in a front end that we can capture this information and expand down on it. There's 400 different pronoun options, and we simply, from a system standpoint, we don't have the ability to add that many fields around the gender pronouns. But people can have different pronouns, add their different pronouns in their email signatures if they would like, as well as in their business cards. But from an HRIS reporting standpoint, that's what we're going with now.
All right, thank you. And so another question that we had is, what can be done to protect employees who provide phone support from being misgendered on calls?
We ask our employees to open up with their pronouns and say their name and their pronouns, the preferred pronouns. And I don't like preferred pronouns, let's just call them pronouns, but that they'll be able to do that. And they're already equipped to be able to do that. It's whatever they're comfortable with.
Yeah, absolutely, and that makes sense. So another question that we had, it looks like, so from taking the customer feedback to executing, this enormous project, this person is seriously impressed. So their questions are, what challenges did you face in advocating for inclusive requirements to enhance your systems to support a better customer experience? And then another question they had was, how did you handle developing the policy to not require legal documentation for name changes? Are there no regulatory requirements around legal names to work through?
So the first question goes to Shannon, and then I think the second part of the question goes to Crystal. Is that sort of accurate?
Sure. Anthony, would you mind repeating the first part of the question for me?
Absolutely. So what challenges did we face in advocating for inclusive requirements to enhance the systems to better support the customer experience?
Honestly, the only challenges that we really received were typical, I think, corporate challenges with, budgeting. So it was more planned budgeting. Everybody, there's a group that gets together and they actually, forecast, do like a budgeting forecast, so on and so forth. And we came in guns blazing and we wanted to make changes immediately. And, unfortunately, that doesn't necessarily happen as fast as we want it to. So we had to go through different channels to actually to present our ideas, our requirements, and we had to go through the necessary protocol to actually receive that funding. But otherwise, there were very minimal challenges. I think our leadership embraced what we were trying to do and really supported us with getting it done.
That's great.
I hope that answered your question.
And then
Crystal, the second part of the question, or second question, was, how did you handle developing the policy to not require legal documentation for name changes? So are there no regulatory requirements around legal names to work through?
So that was the blessing that the New York law gave us. We didn't, the law states that all service providers, so not just Verizon, any utility provider in New York has to offer this convenient option for their customers. It's not a choice anymore. This is something that you need to do, and it's not requiring a legal name change. It's all about how you identify and how we're going to make that process easier and less painful for our customers who want to make that change. So we didn't have to, really go through any red tape on how we're going to do this without the legal documents, because the law says that we have to do it without legal documents. So we use that as kind of our catalyst to, we know that this is the experience we want for our customers. We know that this is what we want nationally. We're building it for New York, so we're just going to build it for everyone. We'll start with New York. We'll monitor, like we talked about previously, the fraud trends and things like that. We'll make any minor tweaks or adjustments as needed. But because New York came forward with this law, it made it so easy for not just Verizon, for all of these service providers and utility providers to say, okay, now we don't have to go through these extra steps anymore. We don't need to make it difficult. We don't have to have people jump through hoops. We can do it now, and it's up to the individual company to have the proper fraud response and the proper reporting to figure it out on the back end. What matters is that experience for the customer and on the front end.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's definitely a benefit, that it helped push some of that. So the next two questions that we have are pretty similar, so I'm just going to kind of summarize them. But ultimately, they're asking if we can share the training toolkit, as both of these people feel that it would be very valuable to push for something similar at their companies.
I would have to get legal and employee relations to sign off to share it, but I can definitely follow up. If you want to email me, if the people who asked that question want to email me, my email's in my profile here. You can email me and I'll be happy to share it if I get permission to do so. but I can at least give you the sequencing of it and the titles of the section, if that helps. Type if that helps.
Yeah, it might be a good starting point, right? And especially since this is something that we're still going through ourselves. But thank you for that. So the next question that is from the chat is asking about how we were able to modify or incorporate these changes into our CRM. So this person or this person's company uses Salesforce, and it doesn't seem like there's a great way to capture pronouns and gender through that software.
So in terms of, are you asking from the customer perspective with the CRM system, relationship management, or are you asking from internally for our HRIS systems?
Both. The person responded back both.
Okay. So in terms of with our customers, we haven't engaged with our, I should say with our clients. So our, hospital systems, all of that, we haven't turned this feature on for them at current time. And I don't know what the plan is around that, candidly. And then in terms of the database around our customers, that is being worked upon, where the preferred names will be captured and the pronouns and all of that. And then in terms of our HRIS system, we are transitioning from PeopleSoft to Workday, and we are building in all the pronouns and all of that in the front end. We developed a statement of work, a very robust statement of work, and when we sent out the RFP, that was included. So that's what we're doing from that perspective. But I will say, from a client standpoint, in terms of if you want to do business with Verizon, it very clearly states you have to have a similar non-discrimination clause, and that needs to include gender and gender identity. Same thing with the foundation. If you're going to ask for a grant or any type of donation, you have to have a similar anti-discrimination clause that clearly states sexual orientation, gender, and gender identity. So we're coming at it at a multiple prong approach.
Very good. So this next one, and Katie, this is something that I think you've at least mentioned in some of these calls, but so this person is saying that my wife and I recently married and I changed my last name. Sounds normal, but at over 50, so many things to change. Can someone help us understand how it is different for transgender or non-binary people? Is this typically a problem when the name change is not legal yet? This person really wants to fully understand what is happening, or what the challenge is, I should say.
So what's interesting that around this, this transgender customer situation, what happened was they were asked to put their husband on the phone. And that is offensive, regardless of whether you're transgender or non-binary, for a lot of people. I personally would be extremely upset about that. So it's a matter of changing your name shouldn't be that complicated, period, whether or not you are transgender or non-binary. To Emma's point, there seems to be a bigger challenge with changing the first name. And then in terms of someone who's married and there's so much to change, there's actually products out there that can help you change all your last name. There's a complete list of how the sequence of how you do it. And it's just a matter of providing your marriage license. It's very time consuming. It's not necessarily difficult. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right in kind of what the question is, at least to me, pointing to is that there is no difference. It should be
There shouldn't be a difference, yeah.
to me, because it's a name change.
It's a
Plain
name
and
change,
simple.
yeah.
Okay. The next question that I found in the chat is, are your customer-facing teammates able to have pronouns on their name tags?
Yes, if they choose to, so in the retail, in our retail stores, we are doing trainings and they've been able to order pronouns on their name tags whenever they're ready, and they're not obligated to do it either if they don't want to. And it's a very simple process. They order name tags very frequently. I thought it was going to be a challenge, but it isn't. It happens all the time in retail with ordering name tags. I thought I was going to have to allocate budget, all of that, but it's not. It's just you go in and order it. It's that easy.
Wonderful. So I think this relates back to, or maybe this is a follow-up question, but do your agents who open their calls with their pronouns receive any angry customer responses?
I haven't heard any responses. I haven't heard any negative pushback. Shannon or Crystal, have you?
So yes, that does happen. It can happen. It's not just with pronouns or people who may be transphobic, homophobic. We also experience some of that if a race or a nationality or a religion is assumed based on what the customer hears. We do have a process in place because our frontline reps are measured on like customer surveys, and their metrics and results can be impacted by those biases of the customer. So if we have a situation where a rep was otherwise provided a good customer experience and did what they were supposed to do, but this customer surveyed them with a negative score that, we listened to the call, or in the customer's verbatim, they say something like, I don't like that they wanted me to call them. And we have a process for that where we will mitigate that result and have it not count negatively against the representative. We basically just pull that survey out of their bucket for the month so they're not impacted one way or another, negatively or positively, from an experience like that. So as far as their performance metrics and how they're measured on their performance are not impacted. As far as that emotional toll that representative takes, I'd have to circle back with our HR partners to find out how we address that. But at least for like the mathematical side of either performance agreement and how they're measured, we do not hold that against them when we have, we recognize that there are, people out there who have their biases, and, they will score down on a rep for any number of reasons. So we do have a process out there to care for that.
And I will say that we provided training to our retail leaders and our customer service people in retail to deal with hostile employees around race, LGBTQ plus, religion, all of that. So we have protocols in place around how to manage that. And then, candidly, there's employees that aren't on board with our inclusive culture. I've had many conversations with employees, and I'm not the only one in the DE&I field who are having these tough conversations. But at the end of the day, we're not trying to change who you are, but when you're at work, we expect you to be inclusive and inclusive, professional, respectful, all of that. So really giving people the tools to protect themselves.
And I can add to that from just my own personal perspective. I came out at work in 2018. I'd been with the company 20 years at that point. It was probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life, because I just felt that pressure of wanting to be my authentic self, but having fear about it. Since coming out, there was a learning curve, and everyone needs to understand that these people knew me for 20 years as this other person. And I'm asking them to, on the flip, change how they address me and how they call me. and since coming out, I've had no negativity internally. There was mistakes, but they would immediately change them and correct them. And I think it was a combination of the inclusive practices that Verizon is rolling out, but also the fact that people genuinely, the people that I was working with around me genuinely cared about my well-being, and it was refreshing to be a part of that.
And because someone's intent, like before someone says anything to you, if they're coming from a place that they want to be supportive, they may not know what to do. You can tell someone in intent before they even say anything. So, Emma's been incredibly gracious with when people make mistakes and just having people move on, all of that, because a lot of people, the last thing they want to do is say the wrong name or the wrong pronoun or any of that. So it's really amazing how a lot of our transgender and gender non-binary employees have given grace to people. And it's all about learning, giving people the resources to know how to handle these situations.
Yeah, I think those are all great points. So another question that I have here, and this is the last one that I have in the chat, so maybe if I miss someone while we're going through this one, if you could retype the question, that would be great. But do you have standardized training for store reps, and is it the same or different for phone reps?
So there's formalized training for the retail. I can speak to that. Crystal and Shannon would have to speak to the phone reps. The retail is different, and it's very specific because it's face-to-face and live. So there's also safety concerns and all of that. So it is different.
So yeah,
Good
for
point.
the chosen name and pronoun initiative, we are working with our learning and development partners and our training developers to develop a core model of the training. And that core model is going to be tweaked to whether it's going to sales, whether it's going to retail, whether it's going to customer service, because each, there's nuances in the role that are going to be specific only for that one work stream. But the core components of the training will be the same.
And I'll add to that we've done a very good job of partnering with like our retail partners or other channels and sharing best practices and sharing material.
And I will say, if a customer is disrespectful to our employees, they're asked to leave, and the customer's not always right. And if anyone says I said that, I'm going to deny it till my grave. But that is truly, the customer's not always right, and they're asked to leave, and the manager or security helps them leave the retail store.
Yeah, and I think that's important to have that support for our employees. I think that's a very honorable thing and the right thing to do. So I am seeing a couple other questions coming through the chat. So did your team create a business case for this project? And if so, how did we go about it?
So the business case for the project was that it was a legal regulation. So we were very fortunate that the budget constraints and constraints for IT resources and allocation and all the things that we tend to really get pushback on this time of year. We're coming up at the fourth quarter, and things are wrapping up and we're out of money. We got to push our way to the front of the line and make this happen without much effort and convincing on our end, because we had the wonderful New York law to back us up. And from a systems perspective, for our IT partners, in order to make this change and actually have the New York flag toggle where we're looking at the customer service address and making this option available to our New York customers first at start, so we can monitor it at a smaller scale before we launch nationally, that's actually a heavier IT lift to create that flag rather than just launching it nationally. So it was an easy sell that we're doing this for New York, let's do it for everybody. So we were very fortunate that we didn't get a lot of pushback. We didn't have to do a whole song and dance. We didn't have to sell people on why this was the right thing to do, because we had the law on our side. And so we made it happen.
And I will say this, I know we're coming to the end, but I can't tell you how many times the business is pulling me in to present to our current customers or prospective customers. And I'm talking about large organizations. I'm not talking about individual customers, where they want to know what we're doing around DE&I. I share our overall strategy, how we're implementing it, all of that. People want to do business with people that have the same values and mission. Employees want to work at organizations that have the same values and mission and all of that as they do. This is the way the world's shifting. And if an organization doesn't recognize that, they're going to be left behind, and rightfully so. But that being said, when you point out, like, okay, we have customers reaching out to us in RFPs asking, what's our D&I strategy? What's our HRC corporate equality index score? That's just a business case. And I've seen that clear a lot of obstacles, which is benefit. It's beneficial. It makes my job and all of our jobs here a lot easier, but it's simply the way it is. And then what's amazing to me is I've been at Verizon for about 2.5 years, and just facilitating the gender non-binary conversation. So many parents come forth and they share best practices. It's amazing. We have 1 minute left. I want to thank Anthony, Shannon, Crystal, and Emma for their amazing work that they do to make Verizon an amazing place to work and do business with. And I want to thank all of you for your time. Don't hesitate to reach out to me with any questions. I'll get back to see if I can share the toolkit, but if not, I can provide a high level of the sections that we're including in that. And thank you all for your work and commitment around this, around LGBTQ plus inclusion.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you.
It was a great session, wonderfully done. So thank you all.
Good. Was it good? I wasn't sure.
Yes.
Okay.
You all are rock stars. Thank you so much.
All right. I wasn't sure if I was.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Well done, everyone. Feedback was amazing.
Thank you.
Thank
All right,
you,
thank
everyone.
you all.
I have to go hop on another call, but
All right.
y'all really
Me too.
appreciate it.
So do I. Bye.
And then
Great.
Emma, they're
Bye.
asking,
Good
we need
job,
to get the
everyone.
video because they're asking to see your video. So let's try to see if we can get that and push that out.
Okay,
Okay.
we'll do it.
All right.